just gorgeous.
James?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, I just wanted to feel satisfying, really. That's all. And so, obviously, you know, you're waiting for little key moments like the reveal of Sonia, and I do feel like it's very, very important to say that Laura,
Yes.
who plays Sonia, is puts in, I think, as good a performance as you could ever really wish for, and isn't here today for fear of it still just somehow leaking. And she stayed in different hotels. She was going into places in the dead of night. She's not part of any of this. Such is her want and our want to try and protect the very feeling that we had here. So it would be really lovely to just give her a round of applause. And
She has actually promised to try and film her parents on Christmas
she hasn't
Day.
even told her mum and dad.
She hasn't told her mum
Yeah.
and dad. And she's hoping to film her parents' reaction. She hasn't even said she's in it. So we hope she will capture that.
And she's absolutely brilliant.
I've
She's
seen an incredible
amazing
performance. That is an almost impossible task.
Yeah.
And in the hands of anybody else would be a cartoon. And I hope that she gets celebrated for what is, I think, a pitch perfect performance.
When you came up with that whole idea for the beginning, the bait and switch of us all thinking the two of you were going to be married, and then it turned out to be her. Was that like an air punch moment? It's such a great.
I remember it so vividly because I was in America at this point, and I called Ruth, and this was in this sort of will we do it, won't we do it, should we do it, shan't we do it, and I had this idea at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I called Ruth and I was like, I wonder if we could trick everybody into thinking that for the first 6 or 7 minutes that they're just going to watch a wedding between Nessa and Smithy, because what was really interesting is after the 2019 special, all people would say to us was, what does he say? They would never say, who did he choose? I don't even think it was in people's peripheral. These two have been up and down, like you've never... it's this guy and this guy treating it like a mother's meeting throughout the entire thing. It's like 19 empty beers down there. We were, and I remember calling Ruth on my drive into work and saying, I wonder if we could do this. And the way that writing the show works is I'll just keep going to Ruth. I'm like a sort of excitable Energizer bunny going, what if? And Ruth goes, nah. And I go, what if? And then as soon as she goes, oh, yeah, we go, I know that it's great. And I remember so vividly, here he is back again, there we are. And I remember so vividly having that chat with Ruth, and Ruth going, oh, I wonder if we could pull that off. And I feel like we did. I feel like, well, it's up to you now whether it leaks or not, because it hasn't so far. So we've really tried to protect that as a moment, really.
It's a fantastic series.
It was lovely to hear a collective gasp when she was revealed.
I'm going to go down the line now and see what you all thought of when you first got sent the script. Joe, we'll start with you. Well, particularly pertaining to your character, and what you had to do in this episode.
Oh my gosh, well I was so excited when I read the script and saw all of the stuff with Gavin and Stacey in the glasses. I just thought it's going to be an absolute joy to film and just so funny. And just the scene where I'm spinning Matt Horn around, bending him over and slapping him on the backside. It's really good fun. But it was just what I loved about the script was that, we had joyous moments like that where, it's hard to get through because you're giggling so much. But then the scenes with Nessa and Stacey when we're in the back garden, and when Ness, is really vulnerable, and just saying how she feels, and just the friendship between us. I mean, it was an utter joy. I just sat there and I just read it, just read it, whilst voice noting Ruth, just going, oh my god, this, oh my god. And then my biggest oh my god was when I sent her a voice note, going, Gwen's got a boyfriend, I'm telling you she's got a boyfriend. And then, oh my god, she does, he's going to come downstairs. And then I sent her this message going, oh my god, it's James Croce. And I couldn't believe it. So yeah, and then I remember just getting to the end bit and thinking, I was just like, oh my god, I'm never going to get through that. With the music and the song and all of us just being there together. And I know, as me, I'm going to find that so hard to film, because I mean, they're all my friends. And it's such memories and just all my friends. And it's so funny. And I remember thinking, God, there's going to be a moment when I'm filming that. How am I going to get through it? And I tell you what, boys, I barely got through it that day, right? And then now suddenly it's just so lovely, like actually getting to see it now. And I'm surprised that there's like so many sort of laughs through the tears as well. Because like, oh my God, the whole, you know, like wedding with Sonia, and even though I'm crying, I'm kind of like, yeah, go on, go for it. So it's joyous.
Yeah. Larry?
I didn't think any of that. What I thought was, here we go, another miracle from the Dreamweavers, and off we go. Simple as that.
Your speech, though, at the stag about Smithy
So
and the origins is so beautiful.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful gift. The whole thing is a wonderful gift. I do not think I can ever remember being so moved by something either that I've been involved with or not involved with. It's absolutely, just as I knew as soon as I read it, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
There you go.
Alison.
Well, what can I say? I love the script. When I read it, I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. I couldn't believe it. And today, watching it, it was just a joy. And I, like you, Larry, I don't normally cry and get over emotional about things, but I was sitting there in that seat, and I was just completely choked, and I don't know, it was a mixture of all sorts of things making me cry. But one of the best things, it's been one of the best jobs of my whole career, and I want to thank Ruth and James so much for everything. Thank you so much.
Well,
It's been great being married to this one.
yeah, it's like a dream marriage, that is, for me. It's like the absolute perfect marriage, isn't it? Rob, what was it like, one more go at the fishing trip? How do you feel when you read the script?
I'd like to say now and forever, the joke has always been you don't find out what happens on the fishing trip. I'm sorry everybody, but that has always been the joke and it always will be because it's funny. It's funnier that way. And I was so pleased that we didn't reveal it because we've never known what it is. And when I read the script like everyone else, I was just floored by it. It's just incredible, still quite floored now. And I know we're all in floods of tears, but it's just so funny. So funny. I just remember sitting on the sofa chuckling to myself again and again and again. And yeah, the whole thing has just been a joy, just complete joy.
And Melanie, Gwen's been through a lot, right? She deserves Dave Coach's life.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that was... I'd had a coffee with Chris Corden, our amazing, wonderful director, before we started. And she said, well, obviously I'm not going to tell you anything. I said, I don't want to know anything. I'll wait until I get the script, and obviously. And she said, but I will say something. She said, there'll be a moment that I think you might shriek a little. And true enough, so when I sort of turned the page, and there it was Dave Coach's. I did, part of me sort of, hoped, when you think about, I wonder what the story's going to be, and I did sort of hope, I wonder if Gwen will have a little love in her life, whatever, just a little hope. And then when reading that, and then not in a million years would it be Dave Coach's. I thought it would be one of Doris's cast-offs, or whatever it was. And then, so just to read that, and that storyline, so thank you, James and Ruth, that's an amazing, wonderful, beautiful storyline for Gwen, so I'm really blessed. So
And it works, doesn't it? They make a great couple. They do. You, after the initial shot, they just look great together.
So it's a wonderful, to have that as well for Gwen as well. Lovely. And my last line was just great.
And Ruth and James, you also managed, you kind of brought back pretty much everyone involved in the whole history of the show. You know, the Stag Do, Chinese Alan, Budgie, Simon Fingers, Dirtbox Gary. How was it like filming with all those guys?
We did, in the original script, I think we had Dick Powell at one point, didn't we? There just wasn't room for him, God bless him, so... it was lovely to bring everyone back, the boys.
Well, all our stags are here, I think the hens are here, we're putting a great shift. Also, we should mention Oscar,
Yes.
who plays Neil the baby, who, I don't know if people know this, but Oscar was one of the original babies back in series 3. So we had 2 babies that played Neil the baby, 3 babies who played Neil the baby, and Oscar was one of those babies. 10 years later, he came back in and auditioned, did his audition brilliantly, and then at the end of the audition mentioned to Ruth and Chris, oh, you know I'm one of the babies that you had. And then while we were writing this one, Oscar he went on The Voice and sung on The Voice, so we knew that he could sing, and that's really where we really had that idea of, well, what if he sung at the wedding, and he does it so brilliantly, and we were so proud of him, and we love him, and it's a brilliant, brilliant performance. And what a journey from baby to that, you know?
Yeah, that sequence is so moving. What was it like? I mean, Joe was talking about how she was worried about crying. I mean, it must have been incredibly moving to watch him sing it. It's such a beautiful performance.
Well, I think obviously on the day Nessa wasn't at the wedding, well, Sonia and Smithy, so I was behind the camera with Chris just watching, watching her direct, I wasn't. And when Oscar sang that, I was an absolute mess. Because it was, just hearing his voice it was so pure, and the guitar playing was just so gorgeous, and so I almost couldn't listen to it. It was too much, you know. So I'm just delighted, and then putting that with the pictures, I just think it tells a really gorgeous story.
Yeah. Did you have to get permission from Paul McCartney for that? Alison and Larry, I wanted to ask, because as I said, people might have heard, I think the two of you as a couple, it's been such a kind of inspirational thing throughout the show, right from the beginning. How did you know, how much did it warm your hearts that you got to play this couple, which is like a fantasy of a great married couple?
Oh, it's just absolutely lovely. I mean, we've been friends for quite a long time, haven't we? And it was always so easy to be with you, and you know, we've had such fun scenes together. It's never felt difficult to feel like husband and wife.
It's certainly not been a lot to do with my track record, but I think the thing is that Mick has kind of infused himself into me, and I got a feeling, you know, kind of building a backstory as you do, that somewhere in the deep, dark depths of Mick's history, there's sort of not such a lot of good stuff as is the case with me. And the more I've kind of gone along with Mick, being Mick, feeling this thing of somebody who knows how good it can be and is absolutely determined to make it as good as it can be, no matter the trials and tribulations of Her Royal Highness and ups and downs and everything else. He is the consort, he looks after her, he basically runs the family, but she wears the trousers. And so it's been a huge thing for me, and I'm just so grateful that you saw the potential for me to play that person when I'd not really got there yet.
Joe, it felt like you and Matt had such a fun time filming that. So Matt, of course, can't be. I think he's going to be on stage with Sigourney Weaver anyway.
He's on stage as we speak, as is Stefan, Rodri. They're both performing in shows. They're matinees today.
Yeah, it was just lovely working with Matt. I mean, we just clicked straight away, and then you come back, you know, to do this after so many years, and you just slot straight back into being husband and wife, and you don't have to really think about how you're going to do the scenes, or, you know, we always rehearse, but it just always just, you know, what's great is that you read the script and you can just hear the characters' voices. You kind of just know how to play it. And with Matt, we've been playing husband and wife now for so long that it just felt natural, and it was fun, and it was lovely, and it was nice that I liked it that Stacey sort of was what she was like, you know, in the first series, where she was a little bit dirty, and it was like fun to play. And I just like working with Matt because I'm quite gushing, and Stacey is as well, and I just used to like it that Matt, in just a little look or just the way he just says something, just very subtly, just sort of like grounds it. And then, but then also it was just, when we did the scene, you know, the wedding, it was, my gosh, we were all crying anyway, but it just felt so, oh gosh, it was just so lovely, because it felt like, as a person and as a character, it was kind of like, oh my god, this feels so wrong, Smithy, don't do it. And it was just incredibly hard to get through that day and that scene, because it was like, oh my god, don't do it. But yeah, my god, it was just lovely working with him again.
And it was a lovely moment when everybody cheered
Yes.
when Smithy and Gavin left the church, the wedding venue. It was just so rewarding to hear that.
What I tell you what, I'll never forget. With that, I must have been 40, 50 extras there, all from around there, all sort of knew the story because they're all fans. And when they got exposed to what went on up there with YouTube, and the looks on their faces, because there's sort of in a reality and a non-reality simultaneously. It was, and then they're all told they can't tell anybody, right? I mean, shock, absolute shock. It was just brilliant.
The two ladies, I don't know if you remember seeing it, but there's essentially, we didn't really tell anybody what to do other than our cast who would stand up at their various points. And when Anna Maxwell Martin, who so brilliantly came to give us 2 days of her time to play that part, when she says, if anybody here knows of any reasons, please stand. There's two ladies at the back on Stacey's side who stood up. We didn't tell them to.
That's really funny.
One was from Australia. They were just real fans of the show. They were so in it. They were so in it that they just stood up, and then they got really embarrassed and were like, we didn't know. I just thought She went, I just thought he shouldn't be marrying him. I was kind of an amazing moment, really.
Alison, I love the party at Mick and Pam's. It's such a fantastic sequence. How much fun was it filming that? Get all the kind of piling on top of each other, all the stuff you had to do.
Well, I don't know whether you noticed, but Pam doesn't pile on top of others. I was standing there as Alison thinking, I'm not doing that. But Pam was also thinking, I'm not doing that. I know, it was great. It was fun. You can feel the fun when you watch it, and it was fun to film. Yeah, it was brilliant.
For a few weeks after...
It all happened right there, didn't it? All of a sudden, Matt went over.
Yeah.
The pylon was improvised.
That was never in the
It
script.
was absolutely right off the cuff there.
It really
What was weird
yeah.
though was for Nessa, one of the things I've always tried to do with Nessa is to not smile. And so it's very difficult to be in a scene like that and not smile when it's so joyful. And so, yeah, I do look a little bit more like Ruth Jones in that scene.
For a couple of weeks after we shot that, I was just like, I forgot this funny pain in my side. I remembered the pylon where we just fell on top of each other. And it was a little nice happy memory of the show for a couple of weeks afterwards.
And the scene with Rob and you going at it, Melanie, is fantastic as well. Like, Rob also can't be here, but I mean, it must have been a dream working with Rob Brydon and doing
Oh,
that show.
it's always a dream working with Rob Brydon, yeah. But
Be honest, Mel, it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, okay then. No. I mean, it's just a brilliantly written scene. Let's face it. I mean, it's so well written. So it was just a joy to do, and that reveal and walking down the steps, and of course brilliantly directed as well and edited, because it's just makes more of it. It's yeah, absolute dream.
But can we talk about Pete and Dawn? I mean, what a fantastic... It feels like it sums up their whole relationship, the storyline.
It's funny because we love Pete and Dawn, like we love all the characters. One of the challenges we've had over all the series is that because Pete and Dawn very much belong in the Essex world, they've got no real reason for travelling down to Wales. Like, they came down for Gavin and Stacey's wedding in series 1, but that was it. So when we did the 2019 special, it was hard for us to justify them coming down to Wales for Christmas, and we couldn't really, because why would they come down to Gwen's house for Christmas? So it's been so lovely in this episode, in this final episode, to give them a really good storyline. I think because of the nature of their relationship, where they've always argued and had this very tempestuous marriage, it was so lovely to take it a step further and go, right, in these 5 years, they have actually got divorced. But the idea that they can't really let go of each other just was lovely. And when we were writing the argument. Do you remember? We had such a laugh with that. And then on the day, coming up with the line of Adrian saying, "It feels like I'm in Baby Reindeer." That was great. Really, really good.
Yeah, that could be the first Baby Reindeer reference in popular culture.
It might be, but I mean, it's true of the whole show. It's that you know, if you're writing for actors of that caliber, it makes your job, you know, 90% easier, because you put it in their hands, and this is true of everybody on the stage, it's true of everybody in the cast who's not been able to be here, is, look, there's been very definite moments throughout the history of the show, back when we were making the series or whatever, where we might have scenes where Ruth and I would go, is this quite work? And then, you know, you put it in the hands of Alison Steadman, of Rob Brydon, of Larry, of Joe, of Mel, of Adrian, Julia, everybody, and suddenly you go, oh, okay, in their hands it works, and it's a complete privilege to have a cast like this who can really just make things sing in the most natural way.
When it came down to the scene with the two of you, where you get back to the docks and you're about to go and all of that, did that scene go through many different iterations, many different versions, or did you pretty much decide how to do it?
Originally, that scene was meant to be set in an airport, was it not?
It was originally going to be in an airport.
And unfortunately, we couldn't get the permission to film, because it had to be in Cardiff Airport, and we couldn't get permission to film there. So initially we thought, oh no, this is awful, what are we going to do, because it's going to be this big farewell, this big reunion scene in the airport, or where can we do it? And then we came up with this alternative.
Well, it was Dave Ferris, is that right, Chris? It was Dave Ferris who has designed every single second of Gavin and Stacey that you have ever seen on screen, Dave and Kizzy, and I think, where is Chris? Is she here? Is this right? Chris? Okay. But I'm right, Chris? Am I right?
Dave was pitching it every single day, because we were, our offices were in the shop.
Dave was, I'll tell them what you're saying, Chris.
But then but to be fair, Ruth did go.
I did say, why can't it be set in a
Yeah,
dock? Why can't she go off on a
And
boat?
I said, you're not going to believe this, Dave is going to pitch
Yeah.
this to me every single day.
So Dave had been saying every day, I don't think it should be an airport. I don't think we'll ever be able to make it secure enough. It will still be a working airport. It's going to be very difficult. Should it not be the ships? And then Ruth said, well, should they not leave on the ships, on the docks? Chris said, well, Dave's been saying this every day. And then we just went, oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, that's right. And then we remembered that there was a reference to Nessa working on the ships years ago. And so that immediately, when we were doing our sort of first rewrite, that became that. But in terms of...
Because originally she was going to fly to where she was going to get on. She was always going to go back on the ships. But originally she was going to fly.
That's right, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, she was on the ships, but we thought she'll fly to...
Yeah. And this
Straits
instead
of
I mean, it was
Maracas
so...
or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Carrasco.
It was such a great location. I mean, it really was. There was a lot of security to get in there, wasn't there? And I have to say, Sarah, our producer, was always on the lookout to make sure there weren't any paps, because that was like the most important thing that didn't get into the press, was the image of James Corden down on one knee in front of me. And hopefully, well, thankfully it didn't make it, and I'm so glad, because I think that the atmosphere of that location was just so exciting and rich and textured, and yeah,
It's perfect. And that bus journey, the coach on Dave's bus, looked so much fun to watch. Was it fun to film, or was it actually quite difficult?
I don't know if it was as much fun. You're still on a coach all day, but we're pretty good. We're pretty good at making our own fun as a gang. I think. Yeah.
There's like some holiday vibes from it, like, yeah.
Keystone Cops.
Right. Keystone Cops. Yeah.
The most amazing thing is we went through that hedge in real life at about 8 miles an hour.
Oh, it was way less.
It looks incredible. We were all bracing ourselves for this huge stunt, and we just kind of went through a hedge, and it was fun. but the acting made it,
Yes.
and the editing, and it was a real stunt, and it was very good fun.
Yeah.
It feels like the right level of stunt for the show, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels like if they jumped the hedge,
Yeah.
it would be too much. Yeah.
Can we talk about how the final scene, that montage, that wonderful montage at the end, that was your last day of filming? I know because I was there. How important was it for you that the last day of filming had everyone, the whole gang there, and you could kind of celebrate and commemorate it?
Well, I mean, as
Where's Steve? Does Steve want to take this one?
yeah,
Steve first.
our first AD.
Hey, come on, Steve. The reason we mentioned Steve is that the first schedule of the show had us finishing. I think it was going to be me on my own in a car on a low loader, and we were like, and Ruth and I were like,
Oh,
hang
is
on
that
a
how
minute,
it's going to end?
that can't be the last day. And I think it's probably the only time we've ever sort of gone, no, we really would like to have a say in the schedule here. And Steve, it was all to do with people's dates. You know, you've got to remember, this is a massive cast who are all very busy and have different things to do and have juggled a lot of things around to do it. But we really, really felt that the last day should be the last scene, and that the last line should be the last thing that we ever shoot.
And what was lovely was that actually, if you look at the script, it is literally just the montage, isn't it? And so we had a whole day. It was quite a luxury, because normally, you know, you're watching the clock and you're up against it, and you've got to get in before wrap. And we were so blessed that everyone in production that made this happen, so that we could have the luxury of having a final day where everybody was there, and that all we had to do, we didn't really have any lines, we had karaoke, we all learned to karaoke, so because you never get to hear. Rob Brydon was warming up his voice, wasn't he? We were like, you know, you're not going to get heard on this. But it was lovely, because it did feel like a real wedding, didn't it? Like a real sort of pub reception, and we're very grateful for being indulged, for being able to do that, because it made such a world of difference that we did that last shot, and then Chris, being the wonderful woman she is, when she called Kat on the very last take, arranged for the sound department to play "Tell Me Tomorrow, I'll Wait by the Window for You," and that got us all going, as you can imagine. It really did.
Wasn't it? Tears all round.
Yeah,
It was probably the most emotional film set I've ever been on, and it was kind of wonderful. So many of our crew have been with us from the start, and so it's a wonderful way to close it all out on a Monday in Paris.
Well, on that point, I think we have run out of time, so that's the perfect way to end. Thank you so much to you all for coming and talking about the show. Congratulations, I can only speak for myself, but my God, you stuck the landing, I think a lot of people will agree.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you to you.
And just a reminder to all the journalists that everything